Okay, so got my Derrida video out of the way. I've been wanting to read that on YouTube for a little bit, and now I want to make a real video. And I'm going to respond to what's happening between. I'm going to respond to Thunderfoot's videos because I think that they're important, um, or they point to something interesting. I'll put it this way. The the first video, and he posted a second one last night called "Feminism is Poisoning Atheism," uh, which is an interesting title. Um, what's what's important here, I think, is that the rise of the new atheism, right? And again, I use that term with respect to uh, YouTube atheists. You know, free thought blogs can fall into this. The Four Horsemen, Victor Stenger, whatever. You can imagine this like past 10 years of atheism that's emerged, and sort of begun to articulate itself, and I think is still kind of young in a certain way. And so there's two sort of strange tendencies in that I think that we're seeing illustrate themselves in this conflict. And the first is the insistence that that atheism, is not has no politics, right? The notion that atheism is a truly empty signifier. It just refers to this position, right? And that's a statement that I don't agree with. First of all, but we'll just that's the statement that they or we are making. Um, it is not political, and there's the big tent approach that comes along with this. Have as many people as possible. We just don't believe in God. If you're on board with that, you're in. That's it. So there's that side of atheism, right? And then the other side of atheism, of the new atheism, is the fact that it is at the same time, I think, paradoxically, an attempt to mobilize atheists, an attempt to politicize the issue of atheism. It's a it's a it it's a political project, as Christopher Hitchens put it, to organize some kind of pushback against the parties of God. So that's why we have, they have things like rallies, speeches, etc. These traditionally political forms. Um, uh, you see this discussed in relation to politics all the time, particularly on Fox News. It seems to be at the head of the agenda. But there is this feeling of like we want our voices heard in some political way, right? And of course, both of these sides are within. Some people are more comfortable if I say the new atheist movement, if you want. Well, it seems to me that these two sides are in contradiction to one another. It seems that there's a something deeply problematic there. On the one hand, all right, we're not political. The only issue is the existence of God, for instance. But we're going to mobilize politically. It seems to me that just given enough time, political mobilization is going to entail politics are going to crop up, right? If only in tactical questions, right? Tactical questions like what's the best environment that we want in a conference, for instance. That's a political question. It's also a question of tactics. It's also a question of defining atheism as a political movement, right? So when these abstract ideas have to manifest themselves into some kind of political organizing, if you take the approach that atheism is an empty signifier and anybody is therefore welcome, so long as you disbelieve in the existence of a God, if you take that approach, then when you get to the real political brass tacks of organizing, it seems like only a matter of time before people's politics are going to create schisms. It seems like only a matter of time before that movement will just essentially fall apart. It will atomize itself. It seems to me to be essentially ancillary, that feminism is the issue that seems to be striking that divide. And I don't think that it really is. I mean, there seems to be a withdrawal from YouTube of some of the smaller but I think more interesting atheist vloggers. I hate that word. There seems to be a withdrawal there. So it seems that coupled with this waning, right? There's this feeling that the moment is passing, and at the same time, people's personal politics are beginning to emerge and be schismatic, which isn't something that I think should be terribly surprising. People say that atheists are like, organizing atheists is like herding cats. I don't think this is actually true. I think that for a long time there was kind of a lockstep gesture. But the feminism is the kind of thing that people feel really strongly about. And certain aspects of feminism, or I don't want to say feminism, I want to say a certain kind of feminism that involves handling the spaces within which they're handling spaces and organizing spaces and such. And I don't actually want to give an opinion on who's right or who's wrong. I just want to kind of say that, like, there needs to be a central effort. I don't think it's possible to put politics aside, but there needs to be some kind of central effort towards dealing with divergent personal politics in order to continue to mobilize. There needs to be some sort of way to say, okay, like, you want these policies, I don't want these policies. Well, we need to work that out. There needs to be some kind of consensus building, and I think there's perhaps something deeply problematic between the side of, this is what's at stake here is rape, like that kind of hyperbole, and then on the other side being like, well, you're encroaching on freedom of speech and blah blah blah. I think that there needs to actually be some kind of we need to put politics aside by actually doing politics. That is to say, mediating between ideas, right? Mediating between abstract ideas like freedom of speech and safe spaces or something like that. These generally abstract ideas and how they relate to their material situation, being the convention. So that process of mediation has to happen, and there needs to be mechanisms for dealing with that. Otherwise, there will be no movement of atheism given enough time, or there would be, or you'll be in the situation that the anarchists are in, which is that you have like 10,000 versions of it. Green anarchism and anarcho-syndicalism, anarcho-communism, anarcho-capitalism, anarcho blah, 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 blah. You have all these different things, and you ended up with this like fractured, atomized movement that, with people who are perhaps a little bit too ready to cling on to abstract ideas without engaging in the real work of attempting to build consensus and attempting to mediate between various interests and build alliances and fronts between disparate ideas. So the failing here is the stubborn refusal to engage in politics as such. You need to have some kind of way that there can be a discussion. It's only going to be a matter of time before things just fall apart otherwise. Atheism as an organized movement just needs to start fucking being more political. Not in the sense of political opinions, but in the sense of carrying out practices of politics, carrying out modes of talking and discussing and listening and disagreeing and still being able to do things, right? Like, that's what I mean by politics here. Or that's what I mean when I say atheism needs to become political, or it needs to own up to its own politics. Because you can't ignore that. You can't. It just doesn't go anywhere. Then you crash on the rocks. And those are my thoughts. And I hope that's helpful from somebody who's not fucking involved at all. This guy. Have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and comment and subscribe, etc.